welcome to the latest in a series of webinars from MJ Flood Technology. Today we're joined by Nick Rathod from ShoreTel, and we're going to discuss unified communications and collaboration primarily from a cloud basis. So we've seen some very significant changes in business in the last number of years. The onset of bring your own device and mobility is putting additional strain on IT departments and businesses in general. So we're going to look at how unified communications and collaboration can affect things like home office flexibility, support for mobile workers through single number reach, the ability to connect multiple remote offices with a central management console, and even the implementation of formal and informal contact center functionality. So some of the benefits businesses are seeing from these types of technologies these days are lower line rental and call costs, more effective sales teams, the ability for them never to miss a call because calls can be now delivered to mobile devices in a more effective manner, and obviously the integrated video and collaboration piece, which allows for more effective meetings and reduced call costs. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Nick, and we will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar in about 30 minutes or so. Okay, over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to cover off in this presentation today are really what's driving the change. So we're going to look at it from a social point of view and also a technology point of view. So customer demographic, how technology such as social media and multimedia is playing more of a role in every business, and also the introduction of smartphones and tablets. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at really what's happening within our region. So specifically the EU, what's the adoption rate, and also specifically to Ireland. We're then going to look at some of the challenges that that are faced by companies like ShoreTel around complexity, simplicity, etc. So what are the big drivers for customers demanding this technology, and then what are the headaches that are faced by bigger companies. And then we'll obviously summarize and then do a question and answer session at the end. So the first and foremost important factor is understanding your customer. Now that dynamic has changed totally. So we need to really get to grips with, well, not only who is my customer, but also how do they want to contact me. So gone are the days that literally we publish a phone number and everybody just rings that phone number to get through to whichever department. Now our customers are getting smarter. So access to information is important. So before we engage with any customer, regardless of business, you have to assume that they already know most of what you're going to tell them. So company background, how much your turnover is, what products you resell, etc., who your competition are. So a lot of that is a given. So what we now start to need to do is think on our feet and be more creative and be more innovative to make sure that we can not only understand their needs, but also deliver a service that is better than our competition. So that's really important. That's what's really going to be driving technology. And that's one of the reasons why social media has really taken off, because it gives the smaller companies a chance to really reach out and branch out to other areas that they just maybe didn't have the finance to reach. So we're going to look at what impact technology has had in today's marketplace, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a legal firm, whether you're in industry. In some way, shape or form, you will have been impacted by technology, whether it's from a business point of view or whether it's from a social point of view. How many friends have you got that have sent you a Facebook friends request or a Twitter request? And these are all kind of mediums that started off in the social space but have slowly made their way into the business environment. And the reason for that is these types of technology are close to real time as possible, and also they're a global tool, which means that companies that don't pay attention to social media could, one, either get left behind, or two, have some serious damage done. And what I mean by that is, if at the forefront of everyone's business, your aim and your goal in life is to make sure that you give a superior level of service, well then guess what? You've really not got too much to worry about. The only thing you need to worry about is, well, am I addressing my customers' needs? And have they got a mechanism to contact me that fits their environment? Because our customers are getting more powerful day by day. And all it takes is one customer to have a bad experience for the rest of the world to know about it. If we go back 10 or 15 years, any interaction that we may have had with any company, if we had a bad experience, all we could do is probably write a letter and tell our friends about it. But that's as far as it really went. Now I can turn to social media. If I'm using Twitter, I could tag the company involved so that anyone that's following that company will now see the tweet. I could basically use my social circles, things like Google Plus and Facebook, to now start to talk about the same activity. I could use functions like copy and paste so that I basically describe my dissatisfaction once and paste it in different mediums. So we're now in a world where technology really is in some respect hindering businesses because they don't know what's right and what's wrong. And what we're really here to do is explore how we can manage and manipulate technology so that it works in our favor as opposed to being a hindrance. So here's just a look at how much the world has changed and how fast the world has changed. So the first commercial text message was delivered back in 1992. And today, the quantity of text messages sent exceeds the population of the planet. Now, let's take a moment to absorb that. Most people right now would think of, okay, text message, yep, it's been around, SMS has been around for a long time. But let's see how that's evolved. We've now got messaging platforms built within kind of social media like Facebook, WhatsApp Messenger. We've had the whole BlackBerry Messenger phase. And these are available cross-platform. So regardless of what device you have, you can go and you can download these messaging platforms. And what you'll find is the younger generation, that's how they want to talk to one another. Because one, it gives them instant responses from their friends. They can see whether their friends have seen the message. They can share images, etc., etc. And it's this younger generation that are now driving to say, well, I want to now start to talk to the various organizations in a similar manner. Now, it might not necessarily be by text message, but they may request that actually, if you're a garage, for instance, and I bring my car into service, that I want to be notified when that car's ready. And yes, you could probably send me an email, but I would like a text message if I'm on the road a lot to say your car is ready. It'll be available to be picked up in X amount of hours. So that is what's really beginning to now drive change. And it's worthwhile thinking about all the different elements that will affect your business. So here's another stat. Facebook. If Facebook was a country, it'd be the third largest in the world. So it has over 937 million subscribers. And I'm sure that that's increasing daily as more and more people get onto Facebook. Now, the important thing here is, if you're a small to medium-sized business, can you look away from the fact that you have the potential to target close to almost 900 million users? Because all social media is networking. It's the same type of networking that every business individual has done in some stage of their life, whether it be physically networking within circles to try and get business done, or whether it's attending certain social events. This is giving you access to those circles in an electronic form. Now let's look at Twitter. Twitter's probably one of the more controversial of the social media because it allows you to target certain comments directly where they're needed. Now, you may have a Twitter account, you may not have a Twitter account. And this doesn't mean to say that you have to go and set up a Twitter account after this webinar. What it's asking you to do is pay attention to your customers, and as technology evolves and customer demands evolve, is that you're mindful of how that technology is evolving and what mechanisms you have in place to be able to actually utilize these tools. So here's a look at what social media can do on your brand. So dependent on the area of business and your target market, here's a look at actually how your company can start to leverage any form of technology, whether that was going from actually we're going to deal with just phone calls to actually we're now going to start to introduce emails, introduce chat. We're all creatures of habit, and one of the things that we've evolved to do more and more, dependent on obviously hierarchy, etc., is we now start to use the internet more, whether that's on the go, on my tablet, on my smartphone, or whether it's I'm sat at the office, I've got my emails, etc. And so all of this information is valuable information to any business, because if you are a business and you don't have a website or you don't have access to information online, then any of your competition that do, well, they're the first place that your customers are going to call. So here we look at the first stat, which says 65% of customers prefer to contact companies on social media rather than via a call center. Now that's interesting, because we've already seen how social media has literally, how wide it's spread across the globe. But now we've got stats to show that actually customers are wanting to contact businesses via this medium. We've also got stats to show that actually 70% of complaints made by customers on social media go unanswered. So this is a scenario where now I can turn to social media and rate or even talk about the experience that I had. And hopefully it was a good experience. But if it wasn't, if your business is not thinking about social media or not paying attention to social media, then that could actually impact how you do as a business. So technology is really driving our thought process within the business and how we look at ways in which we can leverage technology to make a positive difference to what we're doing ourselves. So let's take a look at, well, okay, we talk about social media being available, and we talk about how it can help, etc. But what really is the uptake? So here are some stats that we recently pulled. And what this looks at is the Irish market and the whole European market. And one of the things that you'll see is that actually people in Ireland tend to leverage social media much more than those on the continent. The reasons behind it are still unknown, but the facts are that more and more companies or more and more individuals are using social networks and social media. And that's staggering, because what that tells me is, for such a small region, you're actually looking at this in the right way, is that these technology changes, these mediums now give you access, or now give smaller players access to more territories. And that's what's really important. And part of this could be to do with the economic downturn. companies within Ireland looking at ways that they could branch out, that they could sell their services in other areas. And the only real quick and easy way to do that was to basically leverage social media and the power that that holds. Some more stats on how people use social media. So what are the purposes that social media basically gives each individual company? So here we can see that people use it to collaborate with their partners, whether it's using something as simple as Skype to communicate between different regions, or using business tools to be able to do the same thing. And that's something that we're going to look at and talk about in a little while, is how technology can basically allow you to enhance your business's image. Respond to customer feedbacks, recruit employees. So because we're now in the era of actually we have at our disposal technology, we no longer have to limit our skill set to particular regions. And what that does is it allows us to expand a bit further out, a bit further afield, and get the right skill set at the right price. What you might find is somebody that lives in a small village, maybe 20 miles from the centre of Dublin, might actually request less money to actually work, but actually the skills that they possess are just as good as anybody that lives right in the city. So it allows businesses to be more flexible in who they recruit, because now, especially with the government trying to reduce carbon footprint and carbon emissions and get more people off the roads and either working from home or using public transport, etc., what we can find is that there'll be incentives and initiatives, and companies that basically leverage this will also help themselves in the long run. So the next thing is tablets. And one of the things Mark talked about was BYOD. So are tablets important? Well, all we've got to do is, one, look at the statistics, and two, go into any business and look at the actual tools that they're using. I have to be honest, it's getting to that point for me personally where I'm no longer taking my laptop into meetings, because I have access to everything that I need on my tablet. And that can range from iPads, it can range from Android tablets, it can range from Windows tablets. But the question then comes is, how can I integrate these tablets into what I'm doing, so that not only are they a device for me to, well, if I'm bringing it in from home, BYOD, but also leverage so that I can make full use of email capabilities, collaboration capabilities, telephony capabilities, so that I have one tool that allows me to do everything that I desire when I'm not in the office. So these are also important things that need to be thought about, because if we look a bit deeper into what tablets and smartphones, etc., allow our consumers to do, but that is what's driving a lot of the technology changes, is people are using different types of devices today to be able to then tell them how they want to communicate with the rest of the world. I have certain younger friends that have basically told me on numerous occasions that email is a thing of the past. The time it takes to compose an email and send an email and then go in and set a tick box if you want to be notified when somebody's read it, it's old technology. Somebody sending emails, emails can wait. But what we know is actually a lot of our customers rely on email within their business. But it all comes back to customer demographic and understanding how your customers wish to talk to you and respond to you, etc. Because our customers are becoming more and more demanding. because they have access to information much quicker, they expect us to deal with their inquiries quicker. If somebody sends you an email, although it's an email, and you may have set an SLA of 24-hour turnaround, because of the technology that's available today, they expect you to have at least acknowledged that email within minutes. Because everybody today has email on their phone, on their tablet, bar the odd exception. Everybody that I have come across today, be it young, be it old, be it middle-aged, all have access to email because that is the environment that we have built, that is the environment that we have lived in. And it's no different for us. If we became the consumer, we'd expect exactly the same treatment. And that's a really important factor when looking at how you treat your customers is, how would we like to be treated as a customer? So now we're going to start to take a look at some of the challenges that face organizations like ShoreTel. And it all comes down to, are we fit for purpose? So one of the big challenges around technology, cloud, adapting to change, comes back to the heritage. So most of the organizations within the telecoms and telephony space were not built for change this quickly. They came from a legacy background, TDM, analog base, and today they're carrying a lot of baggage. So what you're finding with some of our competitors is they're not only still pumping money into an old analog TDM base, but also trying to modernize that same type of technology into the 21st century, into an IP flavor. So part of their R&D, part of their investments into those products are split because they're just not being geared in the way to be able to handle this type of change. So they'll have some money going into their old products until they can find a safe time to say, sorry, Mr. Customer, we no longer support this. It's going to be end of sale. It's then going to go end of life. And then what we need you to do is migrate over to this new path. Now, ShoreTel doesn't really suffer from that because if you know the background of ShoreTel, we were built for IP. And we'll cover off some of the benefits that ShoreTel's offers, especially in the cloud environment, which stems from its long heritage in IP telephony on-prem. So here are some of our major competitors and some of the things that they suffer from. And the first thing that comes to mind is, one is the element of actually they've just not been geared, so they come from a TDM background. In other areas, they've just not been geared for telephony full stop. So they're in the telephony space, but do they really know what IP telephony is all about? And then on the third front, it's all around complexity. The way they can sell products without being questioned is make the solution as smoky and as complex as possible. So when you look at the architecture and what's involved, you almost get lost in all of the lines and the diagrams, etc., etc. So our job today is really to make that simple, to pull away all the smoke and mirrors and say, this is what will be delivered, this is what the technology does, and this is how it basically allows you to move forward. So another stat that we got recently was 85% of execs say that complexity is the main barrier to productivity, which is true. If you take a product, any product, whether it's technology product or not, and you bring it home for the first time or you deploy it into a business and it comes with a booklet the size of an encyclopedia as the manuals, what your first reaction? Geez, where do I start? Now let's take another modern invention, the iPhone. And the first time that Apple launched the iPhone and got it out onto the market, and the first person to buy it was like, what, where's the manual? And now let's look at where iPhone and Apple are today, and their products, and their, well, what I can call their fan base. People that will only buy Apple products because of its simple nature. And productivity is all around that. If it's simple enough to use, people will use it. And if people use it, well, then we can measure it. And if we can measure it, then we can put some stats against it and see how that's helping our business and how we can then look at ways to improve it. But if people don't use it because it's too complex, or use it half-heartedly, or can't get all the functionality out of it, well then productivity gets affected. And we look at today, the environment that we're in, and every organization will have office staff and what I call road warriors, which is mobile workforce, people on the road, people working from home, etc., etc. Now that would only be possible if I could ensure that, one, I could manage the information and the tools that they have access to, and make sure that even though they're not physically in the office, that I could see everything that's going on, I can see statistics, I can make sure that they're doing just as much work as everybody else to ensure that it was a worthwhile exercise and cost justification. At the same time, I need to make sure that I've got all the tools available to them that they would naturally expect. So if there's users in the office, and there's a user working from home, and then there's a user that's on the road, I need to make sure that if they're working off a smartphone or if they're working off a desk phone, that they have the same experience regardless of technology. And that if they need to escalate anything, if they need to conference people in, if they need to transfer, well, they have that ability as well. Because that way I can make sure that they are productive as much as they can be. Now let's just take a scenario very quickly. So the scenario is this. So I spend a lot of my time on the road. So I spend most of my time either in the car or at an airport or on the train. Now you're probably thinking, when I'm on the train or at the airport, yeah, I can be productive because I can just connect my laptop up and then I can actually do emails, etc. But I can also be productive in the car as long as it's safe to do so. So if I'm driving for a 3-hour meeting, I tend to schedule all of my calls and conference calls, etc. when I'm in the car connected by my Bluetooth. Because for me, that is the most productive way to pass 3 hours in a car. And likewise, the same goes for train journeys, providing coverage allows me to. And so what you start to do as a business, what you start to do as an individual, is start to manipulate your diary to fit the need and the environment that you will be in any one given time. And it all comes back to measurable productivity. So the fact that, can this be measured, can this be monitored? And then can we put some ROIs against it? Can we look at solutions and put TCOs against it? Because these are all soft measures. Productivity is a soft measure. It's very difficult to put a figure against it. But if we can measure it and compare it against scenarios or previous environments where we couldn't measure it, then we can. So what does UC and collaboration in the cloud really mean to small to medium-sized businesses, even large businesses. But what you have is you have a low monthly cost. So from that cost column, what you've got is something predictable, something that's generally fixed and multiplied by the number of users depending on the services that you require. And so it's something that you can basically plan with. So it's not a shock, it's not a horror, etc. And you know where other money can be spent within the business. Access to revolutionary technology. So although the technology itself you're probably not bothered with, as long as it's up to date, you have access to all of the information, it gives you all of the tools to be able to satisfy all of the things we talked about in the earlier slides in regards to your customers. But it doesn't hurt to know the technology that's sat there behind the scenes. And that's what I'll spend a little bit of time in the next couple of slides talking about as to, well, what is it that is being delivered? How do I know that that is the best in the market? How do I know that I won't be able to get a better service elsewhere? And that's what we'll cover. Unmatched reliability. So now we are starting to talk about the back end. You can be sure that the service that's delivered to you has reliability built into its core, because that's what ShoreTel does. It builds reliability and simplicity into everything that it does because it's passionate about its products. And these are some of the differentiators that basically stem from that brand. And we'll look at how and why. Measurable productivity gains. So we talked about how we can start to measure it, make sure that we can start to deliver the services not only in the core, which is your headquarters, but also to your edge, your branch offices, as well as your mobile workforce. And we'll look at some of the tools and technologies that allow us to be able to do that. Things like mobility, so leveraging smartphone technology, leveraging Wi-Fi technology, as well as mobile GSM technology, and integrating and merging all three into one very nice service. Flexibility when it matters. We all know that from time to time we need to recruit, whether it's seasonal, whether it's we're organically growing, and this offering allows you to do that. So you don't really have to worry about where it is today. You just need to know that when you need to be flexible and you need to grow, this service allows you to do that. And the last thing is very, very important, because your interface is with the partner. So delivery through a trusted partner that's not only trusted, but has been around for a long time, knows what they're doing, has experience, and can offer advice, because advice is free. They can tell you how to optimize your business in areas that you may not have thought possible. They can tell you that a certain way of working has been proven to be better or improved in a different way, because they do this day in, day out. If not for you yet, for your competition and for other people in the industry, so they know what they're talking about. So at ShoreTel we have a different approach. And so if we try to compare apples for apples, we stand out. And there's a few reasons for that. And we're going to go into the specifics as to why we stand out. Okay? So we have a simple philosophy, and it covers 5 main points. First point, reliability. So as I told you earlier, this is something we're passionate about, and it allows us to be different to everybody else. So from a ShoreTel point of view, why is it different to everybody else? Well, because we don't associate cost with reliability. What you tend to find is everybody can be reliable, no matter who you are. It's how big is your check. With ShoreTel, we've taken a different approach. And we've treated the creation of our PBX technology, our cloud offering, to be, I want to basically be able to allow this to be offered to everybody and set a benchmark for reliability. Scalability. So how quickly can we grow and how fast? And availability. So in those scenarios where there is a problem, how can I make sure I have maximum uptime? This is where ShoreTel can offer something that nobody else can in the marketplace. And we'll talk about that. It's called our N+1 hybrid approach. And it's something so unique, and it's specific to ShoreTel. But we'll take a look at that in a second. Manageability and applications. So manageability will be all around how quickly can MJ Flood do add moves and changes, grow your estate, etc. The tools that they have to make sure that if there's a problem, it gets rectified, identified, even before you notice anything. So we'll have a quick talk about that, and then the feature-rich applications. So looking at the different types of technology and how that can enhance your business moving forward. Okay. So the first three that I'm going to talk about is what we call RSA: reliability, scalability, and availability. And all three really go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other. So reliability. Although all you will see on your desk is probably a handset and software on your PC, if you choose to, it's always good to know what's going on in the background. What's happening in the background that's allowing this to be as resilient as ShoreTel and MJ Flood say it is. So we have resiliency like no other. So built into the product is the option of physical and virtual hardware. Let's take the physical hardware. The physical hardware is based on appliances, not servers. And what sits in those networks are hardened appliances running the best operating system there is, which is VxWorks, and it's the same operating system that is sat on the jumbo jet, heart pacemakers, the NASA Space Shuttle. So these are all environments that require maximum uptime and zero downtime, because it could be catastrophic. Could you imagine getting onto a jumbo jet plane, walking past the cockpit and just seeing the blue Windows logo running through those machines? Would you feel safe? Which is why they've opted for VxWorks as the operating system. Superior architecture in the cloud. So for those of you who don't know ShoreTel's background, so ShoreTel came from a clean sheet of paper, which means the conversation we had about baggage, about multiple investment streams, etc., they disappear with ShoreTel. We developed our product from the ground up specifically for IP, which means we knew the challenges, we knew where technology was going, and we developed it so that it allows us the flexibility much more quickly and easily than our competition, which is why we're able to deliver such superior service. Scalability. So this is something that MJ Flood will allow customers to do, so flex up and down as required. So you organically acquire another company and you need to increase the amount of licenses that you've got. It's very, very easy. It's a pay-as-you-grow solution. So you don't have to worry about where you'll be in 5 years' time. You just buy what you need today, and as you grow, you just add to the technology. Availability. So we have greater uptime than the competition. And the reason for this is because of our hybrid technology. So firstly, we have technology that allows our appliances to load balance. So these are all things that you as a customer will never need to worry about, but it's good to have an understanding of. In addition to that, what the M+1 hybrid technology allows you to do is, should any appliance fail, well then there's another appliance there ready to take control. Now this level of uptime allows us to go from what most manufacturers would offer, which is 5 nines availability, which is less than 10 minutes of unscheduled downtime, to less than 5 minutes of availability, which is less, basically 7 nines available. All of this for a low monthly subscription. So what the M+1 hybrid technology allows you to do, and this is something that is purely unique to MJ Flood and ShoreTel, is if we take cloud technology today, a lot of the reliance is in the connectivity between you and the data center. But let's just assume that somebody out on the street actually digs up the pipe and you lose your connectivity. Effectively, you could well be without your phone system. But what ShoreTel's M+1 hybrid technology allows you to do is put a single physical appliance on site with local trunks connected into it, which means that you will no longer be affected by that. What will happen is your local phones will re-register to the local unit, and you will basically then have the technology available to you. So applications. So with this being a cloud and collaboration service, you have access to something called Communicator. And what Communicator is it's a desktop tool. So it sits on your desktop or in a web version, and what it does is it allows you to control your desk phone. Some of the other intuitive features that have been built into this, not only does it allow you to control your desk phone, but it also allows you to control any dialable number. So for instance, if you have this loaded on your laptop and you decide that actually you're going to work from home, but you don't want to have a phone home, you can actually tell your Communicator client connected via VPN that you're going to be working from home, and that if anybody rings your extension, to actually then just ring your desk phone. So what that allows you to do is, when somebody rings your extension, let's just say 1000, it will actually ring on your physical home phone. Once you answer that call, it will notify you that it's a business call. And basically, so you can now differentiate your business and your personal calls from one another. The other thing that it allows you to do is, we have some preset greetings within Communicator, something that we call call handling modes. And what call handling modes allow us to do is change the routing preference and the voicemail box dependent on our activities for that day. So some examples, there is an in-a-meeting profile. So if I set my in-a-meeting profile, or I have Outlook control there, then anybody that rings my extension when I'm in a meeting will be pushed straight to voicemail. However, I tend to use my out-of-office profile quite a lot. So if I know that I'm traveling in the car, I tend to put my travel habits into Outlook to say, I have a meeting, I currently live in London, I have a meeting in Manchester that's a 3 to 4 hour drive. So I'll put that 3 to 4 hour drive in my calendar and have my calendar set my state to out of the office. What that basically does is it tells the system when Nick is out of the office, instead of ringing his desk phone, ring his mobile. If you don't get through to his mobile and we get through to voicemail, Nick's enabled a Find Me function, which will then ring his personal mobile. So this actually was a true story, and it actually helped me out massively. There was once that I was actually traveling to a meeting, and I accidentally forgot my work phone at home. But the fact that I took my personal phone with me, most of the calls that I received basically went to voicemail, and part of my voicemail message was, hey, if you want to find me, please press 1. Everyone that basically got through to my personal phone pressed 1, and I was able to take the calls. The beauty of the solution was nobody ever knew my personal phone number. To them, I was answering the call on a business phone. I notified them that I was in the car, but because of my Bluetooth capability, a lot of the background noise was cancelled out, and they were quite surprised. So again, it has access to a lot of tools. Another tool might be simultaneous ringing. So you step away from your desk phone, but you also pair the system up so that it also rings your mobile at the same time as a desk phone ringing. You might be out at lunch, and you might not have sent it to your calls to voicemail. What you will find is that your mobile phone will ring at the same time as your desk phone, so that you can still take the call when you're on the move. And the tool, the functionality that's available is really designed to allow you to be able to still remain productive even when the environment is against you, whether you're in the car, whether you're in the train, whether you're working from home. And it's all about flexibility. It's all about choice. And that's really where we want to drive this. So from a collaboration point of view, you may decide that actually I don't want to call my contacts or my colleagues. I want to have an IM. And the tool will allow you to move effortlessly between IM, voice, video very quickly. And if you then need to move into a conference bridge to share content, then again you have the ability to do that. So, embracing innovation. We briefly touched on things like BYOD, bring your own device. What we're tending to find is some companies are choosing CYOD, choose your own device. Regardless of which your company supports, if you've basically brought tablets in and started to support that, some of the things that you're probably looking to do is, well, how can I leverage this technology so that I can use the majority of everything that I need on this? Now, from a telephony point of view, this is something that MJ Flood can help you with, is we can provide a service where you will have smartphones with the ability to integrate into your desk phone environment. So now when I'm on the move or I'm roaming internationally, etc., I have the ability to take my smartphone, connect up to a public Wi-Fi, so something that might not be secure, it might be a free Wi-Fi, but the technology itself has VPN technology built into it. So the second I connect to a free, public, untrusted Wi-Fi, the first thing my device will do once I launch the app is create a secure VPN tunnel back to the cloud. Once we've done that, we then basically get our connectivity, and then we're able to make and receive calls as if we was in the UK or in the office. So the identity that we will present will either be the desk identity or it will basically be the office identity. It's entirely up to you how we basically set that up. But again, you have access to all of these services, tools, to allow you to be able to leverage all of this. So how do you find out more? How do you get more information? What you need to do is you need to get in touch with your MJ Flood representative. All of you have been directed to the webinar through either electronic mail, either it's through the website, or you've had a phone call. So if you speak to your representative, they will provide you more information around all of the service offerings that they have, all of the different price points, all of the different options, and then what you can do is get more information. Should you need more information from ShoreTel, again, we work hand in hand with MJ Flood, so we'll be happy to have that conversation with you to let you understand the technology more. So I'll open the floor to any questions that may have arisen. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. And also happy to take questions after the presentation via email, if necessary.
Yeah, actually, I think I'll pass over to Mark Donlan there. Mark, I think there's at least one question there from the floor anyway.
Can you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of cloud versus on-premise?
Sure. So one of the biggest challenges around on-prem is very much the cost associated with it. So not only have you got the cost associated with the kit, but if we look at the kind of the bigger picture as well, you need to have a comms room, you need to have kind of skills within various different aspects of networking, as well as the cooling, etc. And what's the challenge that some customers face, depending on their environment, is the maintenance of it. So as newer technology becomes available, you've got to take the services down, etc., upgrade it, but it's all skills and resources associated with it. One of the things you find with cloud is dependent on time zones, dependent on data centers, etc. Most of it's all running on what we call a VM backplane, so VMware. So we can leverage tools like vMotion to keep hosts live, upgrade patches on servers. If basically servers are getting overutilized, then have tools to monitor that and be able to move images from one cluster to another. So you find that uptime generally becomes a lot better. And then plus you add in the M+1 hybrid technology, that just strengthens the portfolio more so. So a lot of it comes around cost, but this is very much around for the small to medium-sized business that don't have that skill set to be able to then get access to the technology.
Okay, thanks, Nick. There doesn't seem to be any more questions at this point. We will have a draw for an iPad mini later on today, and we'll notify the winner directly, but we hope that you found the webinar useful today, and if you have any questions in relation to what's been discussed here today, please feel free to contact us directly. Thanks for attending.